Hi everyone, welcome to After Class with Ballet for All,
a podcast by two passionate adult ballerinas about all things adult ballet related.
and some random thoughts in between.
We're so glad you're here.
So grab your water bottle
Or a cup of coffee.
and join us for a quick chat after class.
Hi, Elena. How are you?
Good, and you? Do you have something to tell everyone today?
I do. I was like, oh my gosh, of course, after we record an episode talking about the importance of being early to class, I was late to class.
And what happened because you were late to class?
You guys just started without me, which was totally fine because honestly, I was relieved because I think if I had logged in and everyone was standing there waiting for me, I would have felt so bad. So I'm glad you guys started without me, but I just thought it was funny because I'm like, and I'm usually such a stickler for being on time too. And it was just like one of those days, man, where I just couldn't make it happen. So I have to, call myself out.
Right after we talked about the thing we should do and not do, like these are the basics. Make sure you're not late. Make sure that you do this and do that. And there we go. Now, it happened to all of us. Just make sure. I think that this is something that we can start talking about is the first thing not to do in class today. Make sure that if you enter an online lesson, you don't enter with your reggaeton or your salsa playing in the background, your kids running around, a whole party. Make sure that you enter the online class. If you could mute yourself as you enter, better. Because exactly what happened to Hannah, you don't know if I already started the exercise. Mm-hmm. You don't know if we are talking about something very serious and you're just like, hi, and something bad happened to someone else. So just enter your online lesson or enter your in-person class as quiet as you can. And or better yet, when it's in in-person classes, wait until the exercise is finished and then open the door and enter the class. I think that would be a very good one to start with this episode for sure.
Yeah, that's like the perfect lead-in actually, and was totally unplanned. So go us. But yeah,
I love it. We're so natural.
But yeah, that's like a really big one I know for especially in person. That's kind of a unspoken rule because I think usually in any other setting, if something had started, you would kind of just like, sneak in and sit down. But for ballet specifically with in person, etiquette is actually that you would stand at the door and wait till the combination and the music are over. So, and usually too, I know like when I was a kid, and I don't know if it's as much for adult classes, but when I was a kid, you would actually wait for the teacher to acknowledge you and say, come in. So I think now with adult classes, it's a little more just like, you just kind of wait for the combination to be over and the music to stop at the bare minimum. That's what you would do. But yeah, it is. It's kind of funny. It's one of those things that, again, like we talked about last episode, something that you probably would have no way of knowing unless someone told you. So if you're ever late, or even if you need to excuse yourself to go to the restroom in the middle of class, you would wait until the combination is finished to leave, and then you would wait until the combination that they were doing was finished before you entered.
Definitely. Make sure also not just to rely on your teacher acknowledging you, because if it's like me, I get so involved in the class, so distracted with the exercises, that whatever happens out of my dancing room, I just don't notice at all. So you could be like waving at me, jumping, doing grande tests behind the door, and I won't even notice you. So make sure that your teacher, yes, acknowledge you, but if it doesn't happen because the teacher is really involved in class, exactly what Hannah just said. Wait until every music is the music, the combination, all the teachers stop talking, and then very quietly open the door and comes through and just quickly go to your positions or quickly go to where you put your clothes, your shoes, and all that, and then slowly incorporate yourself into the bar or into whatever combination is happening. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. What will be next point?
So I think, and this one I think applies to both online classes and in person again, is to raise your hand to ask a question. I know it feels kind of funny as adults because it's not like we're not in school, but it is a class. And so I think, especially for online teachers where a lot of times there's that awkward audio delay And so someone starts talking and then they don't see you and then it stops and starts again. It's easier, I think, to just kind of throw up a little hand wave to the teacher and give them the time to be able to acknowledge, oh, she's trying to get my attention. She wants to ask a question. And same thing for in person. It just is a way of not having to verbally interrupt the teacher if they're mid-thought, but you can just do the little hand wave. I feel like that's kind of the common etiquette for needing to ask a question.
Definitely. And that would guide us to the next thing, which is don't try to not talk too much in class with your friends, with the colleagues or the other dancers. Because at the end of the day, if you're really talking, is you have questions regarding the exercise or regarding something related to the ballet class. Me as a teacher, I will always be looking forward to answering any of your questions. Not just because I love explaining and I love to get you out of any doubts, but I learn a lot from any of the questions that you do anytime. Like for sure, I love that. And the other thing is, it's not really nice when you're like talking and talking and talking and someone is talking behind me. My first thought that, is it really important what you have to talk? Like it's something we want to share with the classroom? That's my first thing. Is there something else that we want to share with the classroom? And I will insist that much that you'll be like, no, or you might have to invent a whole story. Oh yes, actually yesterday I was doing my badminton dues. Because it's a little bit, it doesn't translate to me that you're involved within the class. Mostly like you are a little bit distracted. The class, to me, would be like the class is boring to you.
It's funny how last week we talked about how your pet peeve was not turning towards the bar. My pet peeve is definitely people having social conversations in class. Like it's like, to me, it's like someone talking in a movie. Like if you're in a movie theater watching and the people behind you are talking.
Oh,
it's
God.
like the same. That's how I feel about it. I'm just like, please be quiet. And I think for me, it's really because ballet requires pretty much all of my focus. And so I think if there's people that are just kind of goofing off socializing, like not to sound like the biggest stick in the mud ever, but it's like, it's really hard for me to also be focusing on what the teacher is saying. And I feel like ballet too, and I think hopefully other people can relate to this, is one of those things where if I break focus, like if I zone out for 2 seconds, it's like that's enough to miss, 2 counts of choreography, which messes up the whole combination. So it's like, yes, I know that sounds dramatic, but for me, honestly, and for other people, that ballet requires a lot of focus. If your head is kind of taken out of it for even a minute just because people behind you are having a social conversation, it's like the whole combination is just gone. So
that's something very interesting. And I will say that it will lead us to something else that I just thought about, what you shouldn't do in ballet. If you messed up a little bit, just 2 musical counts, most of the time you won't have the mental focus, or you're not going to have the dedication to catch up with the next part of the movement. So if you miss 2 seconds, you might just willingly to like, oh, I better stop the exercise now because I can't join to the next part of the combination. I totally forgot. I'm totally out of focus. And that will lead to never, ever stop the exercise. Like, let's say we are in the center, jumping, doing an allegro exercise, and there is one first group and the second group. If you stop doing the exercise, first you will miss your chance to really train that exercise, really train the step that is focused on within that combination. And 3, you might obstruct the next dancer that is behind you doing the exercise. So try always to don't talk too much so you know the exercise. Do the following the teacher's exercise, so mark within the teacher. And if for some reason you got out of focus for a second, don't stop. Just keep going, keep moving, keep the momentum, keep that flow of the exercise, and join within the next part that you know. So I think that would be the other stuff, like the other point, like don't stop ever. Just keep going. Follow the momentum.
Yeah, I feel like that's a huge one. Especially, I feel like that one is so important when you're getting to faster exercises. Like for me, I hate petit allegro. Like I'll just say it right now. Like it is, I think it's like of the devil. But anyway, have to do it. And for me, I know that if I stop because I'm not getting it, nearly impossible to try to jump back in. Whereas if you just keep moving and you keep momentum going and you keep moving your feet and keep transferring your weight, it makes it so much easier that then when you get to a part of the choreography where you're like, oh, I know this step, you can actually jump in and do it versus trying to jump in from a dead standstill. And I know like a lot of teachers too, that's a big thing for them. I've had multiple teachers that are like, whatever you do, just don't stop moving. Like, I would rather you be doing it not quite right and be moving than for you to just stop and go total deer in the headlights. So, because I know sometimes people would easily feel like, well, if I can't do it right, should I just not do it? Like, that's a logical thought. It's not an illogical thing to think. But for the sake of ballet, and I would say pretty much most dance classes in general, it's really what the teacher prefers is that you keep moving, even if you don't know the exact steps. So
definitely. So always keep going. I'm always telling my students, keep going. Just keep going. Don't stop. Keep dancing. Then you're going to create a very bad habit. Every time you don't know what is coming next, so every time just for some reason you did détourner to the right rather than to the left, and you decided to stop, you will never get over that of, oh, I messed up, I just stopped. That's not the reality. What do you think would be the next? I think, imagine that you're dancing in the dancing room and then the Adele song, hello, and a ringtone starts sounding from the other side of the classroom. What do you think I would do as a teacher? How many people will I murder in that ballet class if a cell phone starts ringing?
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one. No cell phones. Turning off your cell phone is... It's similar. It's like, I feel like some of these are like movie theater etiquette, it's kind of similar. Like when in doubt, think of how would you behave in a movie theater. And I think that that's a helpful kind of guideline for someone who's like a beginner, kind of new to ballet. Is just like, when in doubt, imagine you're in a movie theater or a live theater production. Like, how would you act? What would you do? And silencing your cell phone is a big one. It's, it's one of those things where like if you're in the middle of a combination and you're really focusing on trying to hear the music, and then like you said, you hear like someone's ringtone go off in the background and it completely throws your focus. So yeah, being that person is not fun. Being the one who has to like sheepishly go over to their bag and like dig through quickly to try to silence their cell phone while everyone's giving you side eye is like not not the vibe.
Thank you. I was doing 3 pirouettes and now have to start from the beginning. I don't know how many pirouettes I'm gonna do in this one, thanks to you.
Yeah, and it's like, it's hard. I feel like once you break focus in ballet, it's really hard to jump back in. So like if you have to, you break your focus because you're running over to your bag to silence your cell phone and then trying to kind of get back in the flow of class is probably going to be a little challenging. So just turn it off. Another big one, I think, that people may not know, and I don't know if it's the same in Australia where you are, but in LA where I am, we all take our coffee everywhere. Like, everyone rolls up to anything with coffee. Like, there's really nothing you can go to that you can't bring your coffee with you. And but ballet is an exception to that. And so I know, again, like if you were coming to your first class, you might show up with your Starbucks or whatever thinking, oh, I can, bring my coffee with me everywhere. But nope, not in ballet.
No,
not in ballet. So what would be kind of the rules for beverages, food inside studios?
Yeah, it's very simple. Nothing, people. Nothing. No beverage. No, I mean, for my little students, we let them bring the bottle of water, and yet they don't really have access to the bottle unless they're like, hi, Miss Elena, can I have water? I'm like, yes, quickly, and it would be like a really sweep and back to class. To adults, it's a little bit different. We are a little bit less prone to get distracted with water. And I would say just water to class, only water. Like, you might bring an energy drink or something like that, but make sure it's a bottle that you can close. Because if you, for some reason, drop a grandpa man happened, there is not enough space in the class, and it's not a bottle of water running around, it's actually a whole coffee cup splashed and open around the dancing studio. And at that time would be 20 minutes lost in like, well, we have to clean it, we have to wipe, we have to pick up all these, and we don't want that mess. And just water, you will have enough for a whole hour. You can live without your coffee for an hour 15 minutes. You will be fine. Before, after the class, you can have your coffee. I would say that that's a very big one and a good point.
Yeah, I know that's a big one for pretty much every studio I've ever taken class at. It's like an absolute hard no on anything except water in the studio. And that's, I mean, exactly what you said. It's because the floors, I know we talked about this in the last episode too. The floors are like everything in ballet, and you want them to be clean and, you know, not sticky. And if you start bringing things other than water into the studio, it's really easy for the floors to start getting sticky and gross. And yeah, so water only was a big one.
Yeah.
What's another one?
I will say at this point is we talked about the space within the bar, right? So at this, when we are in center class, that's the moment when we leave the bar behind for all those beginners that haven't actually yet been to the ballet class. We have bar and center. The same way we want to have a space within our friend dancers on the bar, we also want the same in the center. And there are few things why. So we might not go like, we don't make a whole circle in the center. We actually get like in lines. So maybe depending the amount of students, we might have 2 lines or 3 lines of like 3 or 4 at a time. And you don't want to like hide behind someone. We might feel a little bit shy and a little bit like exposed if we find some space within, like the teacher can really see us. But that's actually what you should do. You don't want to hide behind anyone because you are trying to create a foundation. You really want the teacher to see you, to like have way to give you feedback. And the best way is finding a window. So it's find yourself in the first, if you are in the first line, find a way to kind of look over your shoulder a little bit and see if the person behind you. Once you told me something like, when you do that in center class, you feel kind of responsible of the person behind you. How is that, Hannah? Like, why?
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things, again, that from taking class when I was younger was taught to us, is that if you have that mentality of being responsible for the person behind you, that they can see themselves. So you can kind of step to the right or to the left to make sure that they have visibility, because if everyone's kind of looking out for the person behind them, it kind of creates that domino effect of everyone shifting to where they need to stand so that everyone can see themselves. Because like you said, you know, you want to be able to see yourself in the mirror. You also want the teacher to be able to see you. And then again, similar to the bar, when you're doing things, you know, extending your legs for adagio or things like that, you want to make sure that there's enough space. And so having that kind of staggered spacing where you can see yourself in the mirror and you're not going to tick anyone around you is kind of the perfect way to achieve that. So you'll see, you know, when you go to classes, a lot of times once it kind of goes to the time for center portion of the class, you'll kind of notice everyone's kind of fidgeting and stepping, you know, to the left or to the right. There's kind of this little moment that happens.
Wiggling.
Yeah, wiggling, where everyone's kind of figuring out their spacing. And if you're like, what is going on? Like, what is everyone trying to achieve right now? That's usually what it is. It's just making sure that the people around you can see and that you're giving them adequate space to be able to extend their legs. And yeah, so that's a big one for center once you move away from the bar.
I will say that that's a lot. Like, we can finish this episode with the last thing that comes to mind. And to me will be, I don't know if you noticed, if you've been already to a ballet class, you will see how when you finish the class, we all always do a reverence or a bow or kind of like the way to say thank you to the teacher. I think that that's a big one to keep in mind. It's very important because the teacher is taking their time, they're giving you all their knowledge. And I do love, like, when I learned as little, I remember as a kid, we always had live music on the classes. And I loved taking, like, obviously having the reverence to the ballet teacher, but we will ask to always face that diagonal, that corner where the piano player was, and just do also the reverence to them. And to me, that's so an important part of the ballet class. Is like keeping that classic behavior alive. To me, it's very important.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those traditional aspects of ballet that is really special. You know, it is a very traditional art form. It's rooted in a lot of tradition, and some of that is not so great. Some of it is great, but I think that that ending thank you, the reverence, and then and then even just in addition to that, saying thank you when you're walking out the door after classes ended. I know I haven't taught ballet, but even when I was teaching salsa classes, like it's really nice as a teacher when you've put in that effort to prepare a class, to prepare choreography and combinations. And I think that's one of the things to keep in mind is that the teacher isn't just there for that hour and a half class. Like that's not all the work they've put in. They've put in a lot of work outside of class to prepare for that day. And so I think like saying thank you is a great way to just acknowledge your gratitude for the work that your teacher put in. And it means a lot as a teacher, I think, to hear that, and to feel like people are appreciative of the work you've put in.
Yeah, it's definitely, to me, very important when we do the reverence online lessons. Sometimes I get too caught up on the exercises and trying to give you more experiences within the combinations. And sometimes I forget the reverence, and I know how much you, Hannah, like it. And I'm like, oh, wait, let's do the reverence. It's very, very lovely to do that. So make sure that you enjoy always that part. It's a very historical part of ballet, for sure. Pretty sure, Hannah, that a lot of people around there, like listening to this podcast, we have their own story to tell. What do you think? It would be lovely to get you all to share your own story. It would be fun. I think it will just be lovely.
Yes.
It would be really fun to hear what happened to you with the things that you should do and you should not do, and how you learn the things that you shouldn't do within the ballet class.
Yeah, I would love to hear stories of if people have ones that either points that we didn't mention, or if you have your own story of like, oh my gosh, I accidentally did this in class because I didn't know. And we're all here to laugh at ourselves, right? So if you have anything that you want to share, either a funny story or like an unspoken rule or piece of etiquette about ballet that we didn't mention, please send them in. Feel free to email us or connect with us on social media, message us your story, and we'll include it in a future episode.
Definitely. Thank you so much for listening, and looking forward to hear and read all your stories.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to After Class with Ballet for All.
Join the community on YouTube and Instagram, or come dance with us, our weekly Zoom classes for adult ballerinas like you.
Links included in the episode description. Special thank you to our sponsors.
See you next time after class. Podcast produced by Mission Bridge Media.